Yeah, sure. Si Pia na muna. Yung ano? Nakalimutan ko kasi.
Relax ka muna.
At least break vibes na lang tayo ngayon. I wanted to put it to a motion in the next video.
The session is now called to order. Everyone is requested to rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, pelas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka masisingil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong baghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagtitigil, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng walang pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa likod. Aming ligaya na pag may mga akin, at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Please remain standing for a minute of silent prayer and meditation. Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, good afternoon. I move that we suspend session.
Session is suspended. Session is resumed.
Madam Speaker, I move that we call the roll of members.
The Secretary is directed to call the roll of members.
Roll call of members, honorable representatives. Abad, Abaya, Abayon, Abellanosa, Abu, Abueg, Acharon, Akop, Acosta, Acosta Alba, Adjong, Advincula, Agrao, Agabaw, Aglipay Villar, Albano, Alcala, Alejano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Franz, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Andaya, Angara Castillo, Antonino, Antonio, Aragones, Arbizon, Arcillas, Arenas, Atienza, Aumentado, Bagaw, Bagaching, Bagilat, Banal, Barbers, Barsaga, Batawil, Batucabe, Bautista Bandigan, Bilaro, Belmonte Feliciano, Belmonte Jose Christopher, Belmonte Ricardo, Benitez, Bernos, Bertiz, Biason, Billones, Biron, Bulilia, Bondok, Bordado, Bravo Anthony, Bravo Maravida, Brosas, Bolot Bigtang, Cagas, Calderon, Calixto Rubiano, Caminero, Campos, Canama, Cari, Casilaw, Castelo, Castro Franz, Castro Federil, Patamco, Cayetano, Celeste, Serafica, Cirilles, Chavez, Chipeco, Co, Cuanco, Culiantes, Cortés, Cortuna, Cosalan, Crisólogo, Cuba, Cuaresma, Cueva, Dalipe, Dalog, Dasa, De Jesus, De Venecia, De Vera, Defensor, Del Mar, De Rosario, De Loso Montalia, Di Vaporo Abdullah, Di Vaporo Khalid, Duavit, Durano, Di Elago, Enverga, Erice, Erigel, Ermita Buain, Escudero, Espina, Espino, Estrella, Eusebio, Ibardone, Fariñas, Fernando, Ferrer Juliet, Ferrer Luis, Ferriol, Floirendo, Flores, Fortun, Fortuno, Fentebelia, Garbin, Garcia Gwendolyn, Garcia Jose, Garcia Albano, Gary Richard, Gary Sharon, Gasataya, Gachilian, Heron, Goana Cristina, Gomart, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Alexandria, Gonzales Aurelio Dong, Gonzales Fernando, Goriseta, Gulias, Hernandez, Herrera D, Hofer, Halosos, Javier, Ko, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lagman, Lanete, Laugan, Lasatin, Liachon, Lee, Lim Kay Chong, Lobrigat, Lopez Benur, Lopez Carlo, Lopez Manuel, Loyola, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Malapitan, Manalo, Mangawang, Mangododato Suharto, Mangododato Sajid, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariño, Marquez, Martinez, Matugas, Miliana, Mending, Mendoza, Mercado, Mirasol, Montoro, Nava, Nieto, Noel, Nograles Jericho, Nograles Carlo, Nolasco, Nunez Maleñaon, Waminal, Ocampo, Olivares, Ong Edwin, Ong Henry, Ortega Pablo, Ortega Vini, Pacquiao, Paduano, Palma, Pancho, Panganiban, Panotes, Papandayan, Pichay, Pimentel, Pineda, Plaza, Primicia Sagabas, Kimbo, Radasa, Ramirez Sato, Ramos, Relampagos, Revilla, Roa Puno, Robes, Rocamora, Rodriguez Isidro, Rodriguez Maximo, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Romualdo, Roque Hari, Roque Roelio, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sahali, Salceda, Salimbangon, Salo, Salon, Sambar, Sandoval, Santos Recto, Sarmiento Cesar, Sarmiento Edgar, Sevillano, Sema, Xiao, Silverio, Singson, Swansing Estrelita, Swansing Horacio, Suarez, Si Alvarado, Tambunting, Tan Angelina, Tan Milagrosa, Tan Shirley, Tejada, Teves, Chanco, Ting, Tiño, Tolentino, Treñas, Tugna, Tupas, Turabi Nataman, Ti, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Unico, Uy Juliet, Orlando, Uy Bareta, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Vilarde, Velasco, Velasco Catera, Veloso, Vergara, Villapuerte, Villanueva, Villarasa Suarez, Villarica, Villarin, Violago, Yap Artur, Yap Melesio, Yap Victor, Yu, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Ronaldo, Sarate, Subiri. Madam Speaker, the roll call shows that 219 members responded to the call.
With 219 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we approve the journal number 70 and journal number 71 dated February 14 and 15 respectively, 2017. So moved, Madam Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports. So moved, Madam Speaker.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the bills and resolutions on first reading for referral to the appropriate committees.
Reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 5018, ensuring the employees' right to their wages, including wage-related benefits, Representative Pantaleon Alvarez.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill 5019, expanding the coverage of absentee voting, Representative Alvarez Pantaleon.
To the Committee on Suffrage and Electoral Reforms.
House Bill 5020, abolishing the Energy Regulatory Commission, Representative Alvarez Pantaleon.
To the Committee on Government Reorganization and the Committee on Energy.
House Bill 5021, regulating the use of social media, Representative Pantaleon Alvarez.
To the Committee on Public Information.
House Bill 5022, exempting the BIR from the coverage of Republic Act 6758, Representative Sharon Garin.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 5023, placing safety nets for Filipino rice producers, Representative Macapagal Arroyo.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 5024, institutionalizing comprehensive national grassroots sports development program, Representative Gomez.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
House Bill 5025, amending Republic Act 6234, Representative Suarez.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill 5026, declaring the PCSO Lottery, Philippine Lotto, and Small Town Lottery the solely recognized legal numbers game, Representative Suarez.
To the Committee on Games and Amusements.
House Bill 5027, prescribing a mandatory retirement age for all members of the AFP and PNP, Representative Suarez.
To the Committee on National Defense and Security and the Committee on Public Order and Safety.
House Bill 5028, exempting the BAR from the coverage of Republic Act 6758, Representative Abu.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 5029, amending Republic Act 9173, Representatives Maceda and Nieto.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill 5030, renewing the franchise granted to audiovisual communicators, Inc., Representatives Maceda and Nieto.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill 5031, establishing a national policy on ease of doing business, Representative Biron.
To the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 5032, defining the crime of game fixing, Representatives Pineda, Belmonte, Salos, Lopez, and several others.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
Resolutions, House Resolution 776, direct the Committee on Energy to inquire the alleged corruption in the Energy Regulatory Commission, Representative Alvarez Pantaleon.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 777, calling for an investigation of the failure of various social media networks to provide an effective method or system to ascertain the authenticity of accounts registered with them, Representative Pantaleon Alvarez.
Committee on Rules.
House Solution 778, urging the appropriate committee to inquire into the legality of in the actions of Fortune Medicare Inc., Representative Herrera D.
Committee on Rules.
House Solution 780, direct the Committee on Rural Development to inquire into the status of the implementation of Republic Act 9418, Representatives Botocabi, Garbin, and Co.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 781, congratulating the recipients of the Outstanding Young Men and Women in the Philippines 2016, Representative Villarica.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 782, to conduct an investigation of anomalies in the procurement process conducted by the DOTR with respect to the award of the Bicol International Airport, Representative Roque, Bertis, and Bravo.
Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 783, direct the Committee on Cooperatives Development to investigate the denial of the BIR to issue tax exemption certificates to cooperatives, Representative Heron.
Committee on Rules.
Committee reports, report number 110 on House Concurrent Resolution number 9.
Committee on Rules.
Report numbers 112 and 111 on House Bill numbers 5051 and 5052.
Committee on Rules.
Report numbers 113 and 114 on House Bill numbers 5060 and 622.
Rules.
Report number 115 on House Bill number 1341.
Rules.
Report numbers 116 and 117, House Bill numbers 5063 and 5064.
Rules.
Report numbers 118 to 122 on House Bill numbers 5069 to 507, 5078 and 5079.
Rules. Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize some guests in the gallery.
Please proceed.
Recognize the guests of Representative Manuel Sagarbarria of the 2nd District of Negros Oriental. They are the Association of Barangay Officials from the province of Negros Oriental, led by the Barangay Chairman Maria Rosario Okay. So moved.
Our guests are hereby recognized and welcome to the House of Representatives.
Madam Speaker, they are also the guests of Representative Arnie Teves.
Noted.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to recognize the guests of Representative Jose Antonio C. Alvarado of the 1st District of Bulacan. They are Dr. Ramon Ricardo Roque and so moved, Madam Speaker.
Our guests are hereby recognized. Please stand so that the members of the House can welcome you and recognize your presence. There on the left, the students from San Beda Mendiola. I mentioned Alabang because I am a Bedan from Alabang. Welcome.
Madam Speaker, we would like to recognize the guests of Honorable Ramon Rocamora, Lone District of Siquijor. They are Vice Governor Maylin Quezon and Mr. Rick Marcos Gahob. So moved, Madam Speaker.
The guests of the Honorable Rocamora are recognized. Welcome.
Lastly, Madam Speaker, we'd like to recognize the guests of Representative Orestes Salon of Party List Agri. They are Susana Reyes, President of Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Association. 2 is Edwin Magnawa, Secretary General, Agrarian Reform Beneficiaries Association. And Mr. John Paulo Bautista, Region 4 Coordinator of Agri Party List and members of Christian for Human Life and Dignity. So moved, Madam Speaker.
Our guests are hereby recognized and welcome to the House of Representatives.
Madam Speaker, with leave of the House, I move that we consider approval second reading of House Bill number 4946 to introduce some perfecting amendment thereof.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the period of amendments.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved and we open the period of amendments.
Madam Speaker, I move that we amend the measure as follows. Number 1, on Section 1, Line 7, delete the word Panglao Island and insert after the word road the word in parentheses Dawis Panglao. So move, Madam Speaker.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Second, amend the title of the measure to read as follows. An act renaming Panglao Island Circumferential Road traversing Barangay Tangnan, Bing Isan, Looc Poblacion, Danao, Tawala, Bolod, and Libuang in the municipality of Panglao and Barangay Totolan, Songkulan, Tabalong, Bingag, Daos, San Isidro, Biking 1, Biking 2, Katarman, Mayakabak, Poblacion, and Union in the municipality of Dawis as Anos Fonasher Circumferential Road, Dawis, Panglao. So move, Madam Speaker.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move that we close a period of amendment.
Any objections? Hearing none, the period of amendment is closed.
Madam Speaker, I move that we approve on second reading the House Bill number 4946 as amended. So move.
All those in favor of approval on second reading of House Bill number 4946, say aye. All those against, say nay. The ayes have it. House Bill number 4946 as amended is hereby approved on second reading.
Madam Speaker, today being a Monday and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize the lady from Party List Kabataan, Representative Sarah Jane Ilago, to avail of his privilege hour.
Representative Elago of Party List Kabataan is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, colleagues, good afternoon. Since President Duterte's declaration of all-out war, numerous violations and attacks have already been committed by military and police agents against activists, urban leaders, and civilians across various provinces and regions. We are aghast at this ongoing military crackdown on activists and members of legal, democratic, and progressive organizations. On February 12, Ferdinand Castillo, Bayan Metro Manila officer, was illegally arrested at Caloocan City by combined elements of two police and military. He was brought to the PNP CIDG office at Camp Crame, Quezon City, where an arrest warrant for trumped-up charges of murder and attempted murder was shown to him. Madam Speaker, two women development workers were also illegally arrested on fabricated criminal offenses. Regina Kilo, Administrative Officer of the Center for People's Resources and Services, was arrested on February 2 in Bacolod City by PNP CIDG elements for murder charges. She is currently detained at the Handumanan Female Dormitory. On February 9, Sara Abellon Aliquez, a member of the Board of Directors of the Regional Development Center, Katinulong Dagiti Umiliti Amyanan, was accosted by elements of the AFP while on her way to downtown Baguio City. She was detained for 2 days without charges before she was turned over to the PNP on February 11 for trumped-up charges of arson and robbery. She is now temporarily released on bail. Aliquez, Akankanay Igorot, is a pioneer of the Cordillera People's Alliance. Among others who were illegally detained and arrested in the past week were also NGO workers, Provencio Cortez and Marciado Sagun in Itogon, Benguet, and Jacinto Faroden in La Trinidad, Benguet, and also Gabriela member Edison Villanueva in Santa Cruz, Mindoro Occidental. Furthermore, on February 13, we were appalled when we heard of the bomb attack launched by the 73rd Infantry Battalion in Barangay Datal, Angas in Alabel, Sarangani Province, which has forced more than 100 Lumad families to evacuate their homes since yesterday. According to reports, the 73rd IB has enforced a food blockade in the said barangay, making the evacuees and residents' situation worse. Further, 4 civilians were illegally arrested and tortured to serve as local guides in the conduct of these military operations. On the same day, in Cagayan Valley, Dangayan reported that 50 residents of rural communities in Madela, Quirino have been harassed and forced to evacuate due to military operations of the 86th Infantry Battalion of the Philippine Army. The operations were allegedly carried out by the said battalions to hunt down NPA guerrillas in the area. Civilians bear the brunt of the government's all-out war. Even worse, the past 3 weeks alone heartlessly saw the killings of peasant and mining leaders. From February 3 to February 19, 9 farmers and indigenous peoples fighting for their land were killed in separate incidents by suspected state agents. The latest victim was Willerme Agorde, who died from gunshot wounds late last night February 19, at the Antipas Medical Hospital in North Cotabato. He was gunned down at 6 p.m. by motorcycle-riding men in Ilustre Village, President Rojas Town. Agorde is a peasant leader of Mailuminado Farmers Association Incorporated that has been fighting for ownership of 5,000 hectares of land inside the University of Southern Mindanao, Cotabato Foundation College of Science and Technology. 8 other political killings this month were recorded by Human Rights Alliance Karapatan, bringing to a total of 32 activists killed since Duterte assumed the presidency. Just recently, Kabataan Party List has been the target of several surveillance operations on the party and its officers. National officers of Kabataan and other mass organizations were being followed by a blue Toyota vehicle during the Rise for Education Assembly in Diliman, Quezon City on February 14. Madam Speaker, ang mga participants po ng ating assemblya na ito ng Rise for Education ay mga estudyante, mga student councils mula sa iba't ibang pampubliko at pampribado na higher education institutions na nag-uusap lamang hinggil sa kanilang plano sa pagtutulak ng kanilang karapatan sa edukasyon, pagtigil ng taon-taon na tuition and other school fee increases, ngunit sila ay nakaranas din ng mga ganitong threat and intimidation. Later that day, a car with a PNP plate was parked for around 15 minutes in front of the Kabataan Party List Quezon City headquarters. We strongly condemn the increasing threats and human rights violations to our leaders and the people. These attacks only show how the President's declaration of an all-out war has led to heightened militarization and swelling rights abuses, especially in legal organizations not covered by the armed insurgency. This is how AFP's new program, Oplan Kapayapaan, a mere rehash of their previous counterinsurgency program, Oplan Bayanihan, have only caused people more harm and discord than peace and development. Further, the move to reinstitute mandatory ROTC in schools and the proposal of reviving the Philippine Constabulary are manifestations of President Duterte's increasing penchant for perpetuating state fascism. These moves are tantamount to endorsing gross human rights abuses, grave disregard of civil liberties, and propagating state terrorism. Thus, we call on President Duterte, our colleagues, to help and support, to immediately rein in the state forces, stop the harassment of activists, stop the all-out war, and the crackdowns on our people and communities. Ang panawagan ng kabataan ay all-out peace at hindi all-out war. Likewise, we urge the President to order the resumption of peace negotiations and follow through on its significant advances, particularly in the substantive agenda on socio-economic reforms. Those are pivotal to addressing the roots of armed conflict. Ang kabataan ang pinakaapektado kung hindi matutuloy ang usapang pangkapayapaan. Ang sabi ng ating Pangulo, peace may not come in this generation, pero ang mga kabataan ay hindi na po gusto na mamana pa ang mga problema na ito at kaya kailangan ng mapag-usapan ngayon. Diba? Kung hindi ngayon, kailan pa natin pag-uusapan ang mga ugat ng armadong pakikibaka. Decisively, we enjoin the Filipino people and the youth to launch mass actions against state-perpetuated violence and fascism on February 23, our National Day of Action for Education, Human Rights, and Peace. Yun lamang, Madam Speaker, maraming salamat at magandang araw sa inyong lahat.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of Honorable Ilago to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So move, Madam Speaker.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved. Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Mark Go, the Lone District of Baguio, for his privilege hour.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Go is recognized. Please proceed.
Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, my countrymen, I rise on a matter of personal and collective privilege. I thought of making today a day to remember. I want to talk about love. Yes, love. You have it right. I must think such subject has never been talked about here, or probably seldom, because it seems not appropriate to be an object of debate or a piece of law. The debunkers of love may say what power it is to feed an empty stomach, but I refute with the question, what is a full stomach without love? In fact, we have heard love is the greatest, or love is the most powerful, or love can move mountains, or love changes everything. Like the poets who sing it and the writers who praise it, I believe in love. My belief in its power is strong, unshakable like a planted rock, firm and enduring. And I think there is no better place to talk about love but within these halls of Congress. This is the sanctuary of the voice of God and the voice of people. And my address of love is a mandate of both. For what is public service then but to serve God and to serve people? Service to God and service to people are one. They are the pinnacle of love in action. When we serve God, we acknowledge Him to be the author of all that is good and beautiful. Our life is one good and beautiful gift, a parcel of divinity, an imprint of God. When we serve people, we acknowledge the completeness of our being. The otherness of people we serve invites us to be selfless and to unite with them in a communal joy of being human. Our strength as leaders is found in God, in people, and in prayer. We must pray that God will guide us in our actions in meeting the daily demands of our work. We must pray that we will all act with justice, truth, and love in serving our people. Interestingly, George Washington wrote a prayer for guidance, and George Bush had a prayer to help others. Bush prayed, and I quote, "For we are given power not to advance our own interest, nor to make a great show in the world, nor a name. There is but one just use of power. It is serve people. Help us to remember it, Lord," unquote. Unquestionably, the mandate of our office is service, and it is the only legitimate and moral justification of our leadership. Being a servant does not mean being a slave. A servant knows what his master needs. A slave does not. A servant offers his service to his master. A slave waits for the command of his master. Our master is the people we serve. Our master is the people who sometimes do not know how to write, but who know what is right. Our master is the people who sometimes do not know how to read, but who know how to give all the bread in their keeping. Our master is the people who are homeless, hungry, lonely, downtrodden, victims of injustice, and even those who are in jail. They are the people who can never pay us back. They are the people who are willing to sacrifice everything and no instance of comfort in life. Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, my countrymen, our great commission to serve comes with it no guarantee of absolute success, no assurance of comfort along the way, sometimes no sign of light at the end of the tunnel. Are we willing to wash the feet of our constituents? Are we willing to walk 3 extra miles with them? Are we willing to drown ourselves into the depths of their suffering? Are we willing to share with their laughter? Are we willing to eat with them in their humble abode? Are we willing to find glorious relief from dirtying our hands, tilling with them in their fields of corn? As of this hour, more than 26 million Filipinos are poor, and nearly 12 million are in extreme poverty. If we just take a walk along the footbridges, we can find the hungry along their sides. As of this hour, Many are still outside the streets looking for jobs. The number of unemployed Filipinos is at 2.4 million. As of this hour, many are crying for fairness and equity. As of this hour, many are sick and are dying. As of this hour, many fail in life. Sadly, this is an unwelcome reality to us. Why, we wonder, we have already exhausted all solutions. Today, however, there is no time for us to blame other people. Neither it is time for us to regret, nor it's time for indifference. As leaders, I know how much we think of making a change. As we wake up every morning, we always hope for further possibilities that we as a people can reach. We still dream for our people and their bright future. We are known to love God and to love the people we serve. But how about our love for our country and the love of our people for her? I think all of us would agree that this is the very moment to rekindle our love and understanding for our country. At the outset, we love our country not because she is great. We love her because she is simply ours, and we must make her great because we love her. As leaders, we must take the lead in initiating a cultural revolution of taking pride in our country. We are at the best position since our reach is both local and national. Our people need us. Our people need good people to follow, and we set ourselves as examples. This is not a new idea. Everyone knows, but what we need to do is to increase the degree of patriotic love to each Filipino. We are a pool of 292 best minds in the country, more than the amount of legislation we pursue for regulation and order of our people. We need to step up and converge our efforts to campaign for more love of our country. It's time to wake up. It's time to reflect on our great possibility, and it all starts today. In the larger picture of our communities and of our nation, all of us are enjoined to be good and active citizens. Let us rewire ourselves to the past and to reflect what excellent gift of democracy has been bestowed on us today and to our future. The freedom to talk, to move around, to pray, to marry, and many others. All these are blessings that we should never take for granted. Like the people we serve, we have duties and responsibilities to perform to give back to our country. It is our civic duty to obey the laws of our country and to pay our taxes, among others. We are often reminded about the civic duties, but we seem not to take them by heart. Our civic duties are nothing but our way of saying our gratitude to the government for affording us protection, security, and opportunities to make a living and to be happy. On the other hand, we give to this country the best ways we can. We work, yes, with passion for what we do. Nationalism can be one big honeymoon, and doing our best in our respective fields is probably the best we can do for this everyday kind of love, in satisfying the demands of our people who hold us accountable to our work, that make our work a part of a bigger love story. Avenues of volunteerism are wide, from helping advocacies in communities to initiating one's campaign in fight against injustice, in protection of our rights, in pursuit of truth. This reaching out is love, and it empowers because it asks for nothing. It empowers through service. Love is not love without help, and help is not help without love. This is evident through volunteerism. Volunteerism is the building block of a nation as it elicits contribution that has no price or exchange rate, only an opportunity to give. Give other opportunities, share experience, knowledge, and expertise. Let me conclude my message this afternoon by sharing with you the story of a small orphaned boy who lived with his grandmother. One night, their house caught fire. While trying to rescue the little boy who was sleeping upstairs, the grandmother died in the smoke and flames. A crowd gathered around the burning house where the boy's cry for help could be heard above the blaze. No one knew what to do. Suddenly, a man rushed from the crowd and circled to the back, where he spotted an iron pipe that reached an upstairs window. He disappeared for a minute, then reappeared with a boy in his arms. Amid the cheers of the crowd, he climbed down the hot pipe as the boy held back to his neck. Weeks after, a public hearing was held in the town hall to determine in whose custody the boy would be placed. Since no relative was left to the care of the boy, city legislation required that the boy be given for adoption only to highly qualified persons. Each person interested in adopting the boy was allowed to speak briefly. One man said, "I have a big farm. Everybody needs the outdoors." Another boasted of his work. "I am a teacher. I have a large library. He could get a good education." The richest man in the community spoke last and topped it all with, "I could give the boy everything mentioned tonight, the farm, education, and more, including money and travel. I'd like him in my home." When the chairman asked if anyone else wanted to say anything before he closed the session, a stranger rose from the back. As he walked toward the front, deep suffering showed on his face. Once in front, he stood directly in front of the little boy. Slowly, the stranger removed his hands from his pockets. The crowd gasped. When he looked up, so did the little boy. The man's hands were terribly scarred. Suddenly, the boy gave out a cry of recognition. This was the man who saved his life. His hands were scarred from climbing up and down the hot pipe. The boy leaped up, threw himself around the stranger, and held on for life. The farmer rose and left. So did the teacher. Then the rich man. The stranger had won the boy without a word. His hands spoke more effectively than any words could have. Indeed, this is a story of what love is and what service is all about. Like the stranger, we are the only people our country will recognize as the rightful claimants of her. The custody of our country is in our hands, who serve her. Her life is in our hands. She is ours. The Philippines is for Filipinos. Love is a sacrifice, and we are a wounded lover for our country. Our hands may be scarred, but they are the only hands that will bring our country back to life. The feast of St. Valentine last week has come like an audible step at the threshold of a door. For the greatest mandate of love, let us make the Philippines our Valentine this afternoon and for the rest of our life. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, my dear colleagues.
Madam Speaker,
Yes, Majority Floor Leader.
I move that we refer the speech of Representative Marco to the Committee on Rules for appropriate action. So move.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize Honorable Carlos Isagani Zarate of Party List Bayan Muna to avail of his privilege hour.
Honorable Zarate from Party List Bayan Muna is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, ako ay tumitindig ngayong hapon at nagtatalumpati sa gitna ng ligalig sa hanay ng mga aktivista, manggagawang pangkarapatan, mga katutubo at iba pang mamamayan na ngayon parang nasa tudla ng panunupil ng mga puwersa ng Estado. Tila baga, Madam Speaker, meron ng go signal para sa mga sabik sa gerang AFP na kating-kati na ang mga palad sa paghahasik ng karahasan sa mamamayan, ang pagkansila ng usapang pangkapayapaan sa pagitan ng gobyerno ng Republika ng Pilipinas at ng National Democratic Front of the Philippines. Ang mga patunay nito, Madam Speaker, mula lamang nitong 3 ng Pebrero, araw ng pagpapahayag o ng pagpahayag ni Presidente Rodrigo Duterte na ikinakansila na niya ang usapang pangkapayapaan, umabot na sa 19 ang illegal na inaresto at hinuli. Kasama na rito ang mga kababaihang development workers na sina Regina Kilop, isang administrative officer ng Center for People's Resources and Services or CPRS sa Bacolod, at si Sara Abellon Aliques, isa sa mga nagtatag ng Cordillera People's Alliance at ngayon nga ay isang member ng Board of Directors ng Kaduwami, isang development institution ng Cordillera. Samantala, piniringa naman bago idetine sa Camp Crame si Ferdinand Castillo, isang campaign officer ng bagong alyansang Makabayan National Capital Region or Bayan NCR. Kasama rin sa bilang na ito ang consultant ng National Democratic Front of the Philippines sa Southern Mindanao Region na si Ariel Arbitrario na dinakip ilang oras lamang matapos magdeklara ng all-out war laban sa CPP, NPA, NDF, si Defense Secretary Delfen Lorenzana. Higit na nakakabahala, Madam Speaker, ang pag-igting ng pampulitikang pamamaslang. Sa loob lamang ng 3 linggo ng Pebrero, 9 na manggagawa, magsasaka at katutubo ang pinatay. Ang isa sa mga pinaslang na ito ay si Glenn Ramos, 39 na taong gulang at isang construction worker at dating coordinator ng aming partido, Bayan Muna, sa Davao City. Pinasok umano ng mga miyembro ng CIDG ang kanilang tahanan at wala siyang awang pinagbabaril ng 4 na beses sa harap ng kanyang kapatid. 3 bala sa dibdib at dahil sa siya ay buhay pa, isang tama naman ang siya naman ay binaril sa kanyang tiyan. Mariing kinukundina namin, Madam Speaker, ang pagpatay kay Glenn Ramos at kami ay nananawagan na kagyat na katarungan sa kanyang pagkapaslang. Samantala, 2 manggagawa pa ang pinaslang ngayong buwan. 2 small-scale miners na sina Pipito Chambong at Gerson Bito ay namatay pagkatapos pagbabarilin ng mga miyembro ng 73rd Infantry Battalion ang isang mining tunnel sa Santiago, Agusan del Sur sa paniniwalang may mga miyembro ng NPA sa loob nito. 4 pang minero ang nasugatan sa insidenteng yaon. Karahasan din, Madam Speaker, ang inabot ng ating mga magbubukid. Kagabi lamang, February 19, ay walang awang pinaslang si Willermy Agorde, isang leader na magsasaka ng Mailuminado Farmers Association Incorporated na matagal nang nakikipaglaban para sa lupang sakahan sa bayan ng Rojas, North Cotabato. Ayon mismo sa ulat ng kapulisan, nakaupo lamang si Agorde sa harap ng kanyang tindahan nang ito ay lapitan ng 2 katao at pinagbabaril gamit ang kalibre 45. Hindi pa sinaksak pa siya sa iba't ibang parte ng kanyang katawan pagkatapos barilin. Sa Rojas, Capiz naman, nakapikit ang mga magsasaka sa labas ng Tan Estate sa pagigiit ng mga magsasaka ng kanilang karapatan sa lupa, lalo na nagbigay ang Department of Agrarian Reform ng Certificates of Land Ownership Awards o CLOA. Subalit noong February 11 ay pinaulanan ng bala ang kampuhan ng mga magsasaka ng mga armadong gwardya na umano ay gwardya ng Tan Estate. Namatay sa insidenteng ito si Orlando Islana at nasugatan ang 5 pa. Patuloy din ang pagpaslang ng ating mga kapatid na mga lumad, Madam Speaker. 4 pang katutubong lumad ang pinatay mula lamang noong 3 ng Pebrero. Parang hayop na pinagbabaril sa magkahiwalay na insidente ang mga lumad na sina Edwino Catog, Lorendo Pukuan, Renato Anglao at Emilio Rotimas sa kanilang mga tahanan at komunidad ng grupong paramilitar at mga miyembro umano ng AFP. Ganito po, Madam Speaker, ang mukha ng karahasan ngayon sa ating kanayunan. Dapat lamang na mariing kundinahin nating mga mambabatas at mamamayan ang pasistang atake na ito sa ating mga kalumaran at ating mamamayan. Madam Speaker, ang idineklarang all-out war ng National Defense ay malinaw na all-out war sa ating mamamayan. Tulad ng martial law noong mga nakaraang panahon at ang saring all-out war pa ng mga nakaraang administrasyon Mahuhulog ito hindi sa pagpuksa sa mga rebelde, kundi sa pagpatay ng mga sibilyan, paglabag sa karapatan ng ating mga mamamayan at pampulitikang panunupil. Muli tayong pinalaalahanan ng katotohanan ito, Madam Speaker. Pinatutunayan na ang mahabang kasaysayan na ang pagresolba ng rebelyon sa ating bayan ay hindi nadadala sa bala at dahas. Sapagkat sa kabila ng bilyong-bilyong pera, dugo at libong-libong armas, imbis na malupig, ay nagpatuloy, lumalakas at naging mas malaganap ang halos kalahating siglong revolusyon na sa ating kanayunan. Ang marahas na estado kasama na ang mga malalalim na inhustisyang panlipunan ang numero unong recruiter ng mga gerilyang mandirigma. Kaya kami sa Bayan Muna, Madam Speaker, ay naniniwala na mas malaki ang tsansa ng Administrasyong Duterte na marisolba ang ugat ng armadong paglaban kapag bumalik ang GRP sa negotiating table at pag-usapan ang socio-economic reforms na siyang buod ng digmaang sibil. Nananatiling bukas, ayon sa kanila, ang NDFP sa pakikipag-usap at kamakailan lamang ay nagpahayag ang CPP na handa silang makipagsundo sa isang bilateral ceasefire agreement, kalakip ng pagpapalaya ng mga bilanggong politikal at gayon rin ang pagpapalaya ng mga tinaguriang prisoners of war na sa kanilang pangangalaga. Kaya't hinihimok natin ang gobyernong Duterte na ito ay tumbasan ang pahayag na ito at ipanumbalik ang usapang pangkapayapaan para sa kagalingan ng sambayanan at para sa matagalan at tunay na kapayapaan sa ating bayan. Dapat nitong rindahan ang walang habas na karahasan ng mga paramilitar at ng miyembro ng AFP at iba pang puwersa ng Estado na pumapatay, nagkukulong at nandarahas sa ating mga mamamayan. Kaya't ang aming panawagan, Madam Speaker, katarungan para kay Glenn Ramos, katarungan para kay Emelito Rotimas, katarungan para kay Renato Anglao, katarungan para kay Manatim Lorendo Pukuan, katarungan para kay Orlando Eslana, katarungan para kay Jason Bito, katarungan para kay Pipito Chambong, katarungan para kay Edwino Catog, katarungan para kay Willerme Agorde, katarungan para sa siyam na kababayan nating itong napaslang nitong nakaraang mga linggo. Ituloy ang usapang pangkapayapaan, itigil ang all-out war laban sa ating mga mamamayan. Magandang hapon at maraming salamat, Madam Speaker.
Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer.
Madam Speaker, may I know if...
Madam Speaker, I'd like to recognize the gentleman from Wansagip to interpolate.
I'd like to know, Madam Speaker, if...
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the Honorable gentleman from Bayan Muna, Madam Speaker, yield to a few questions?
Gladly, Madam Speaker.
Salamat po. Madam Speaker, Your Honor, mga ilang paglilinaw lamang po, yung pong mga binanggit ninyo na mga pagpaslang, talaga po namang nakalulungkot na mga pangyayari. Wala po siguro isa man sa atin ang matutuwa o mapapangiti kapag nakita natin ang mga pagpaslang sa ating mga kapwa Pilipino. Tama po ba yun, Sir Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po, Madam Speaker. Lalo't-lalo na kung walang hustisya ang...
At ganun din po sa panig ng ating pamahalaan, Madam Speaker, Your Honor. Marahil po naman ay hindi rin lingid sa inyong kaalaman na marami rin tayong mga kasundaluhan at marami ring mga sibilyan ang napaslang dahil sa alitan sa pagitan ng CPP, NPA, NDF at ang ating mga kasundaluhan. Tama rin po ba yun, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po yan, Madam Speaker. Kaya nga po tayo ay nananawagan dahil talagang dito sa nagpapatuloy na digmaang sibil o itong armadong tunggalian sa ating bayan ay tuloy-tuloy, no, na may nagkakaroon ng mga casualties. Kaya tayo ay nananawagan na isang oportunidad na marisolba ito sa pamamagitan ng usapang pangkapayapaan na nitong nakaraang 6 na buwan sa loob lamang ng 3 rounds of talks ay napakahaba na ang inabante nito, lalong-lalo na doon sa substantive agenda na socio-economic reforms na sa tingin ng karamihan ay ito ang magiging sagot sa tinatawag nating ugat ng armadong tunggalian sa ating bayan, Madam
Sa
Speaker.
makatwid, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, alin mang panig ang napaslang ang buhay, nagbuwis ng buhay, lahat po tayo ay malulungkot. Lahat po ay talo sapagkat wag na nating bilangin kung ang napaslang ay sa panig ng CPP-NPA o sa panig ng pamahalaan. Ang ibig pong sabihin dito, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, talaga pong dapat ang dalawang panig ay mag-usap kesa mag-usap sa pamamagitan ng bala. Hindi po ba, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po yan at isang napaka-ideal na sitwasyon na sana ang tunggaliang ito nga ay marisolba sa pamamagitan ng peace talks. No? Kaya again, Madam Speaker, yun po ang ating pananawagan ngayon. Dahil naman kung ating susundan itong mga nakaraang 5 buwan, for the first time, mula noong 1992, nang bumalik o nabuksan ang usapang pangkapayapaan sa GRP, o Government of the Republic of the Philippines and the National Democratic Front, for the first time ay nagkaroon tayo ng isang mahabang interim ceasefires. Na although ito ay mga unilateral ceasefires na dideklara ng gobyerno at ng NPA. No? Subalit dahil nga ito ay mga unilateral ceasefires, nagkaroon ng mga maraming complaints on the ground. No? At ito ay isang usapin nga nitong nakaraang third round of talks doon sa Roma, Italia, na kung saan, kung mabanggit ko lang, Madam Speaker, at sa ating kaibigan, isa sa napagkasundoon sana doon ay ang operationalization ng Joint Monitoring Committee or JMC na siyang magpapatupad sa mga napagkasunduan na probisyon ng Comprehensive Agreement on the Respect of Human Rights and International Humanitarian Law or ang batas ng giyera na kung saan ito ay pinagtibay ng GRP at ng NDFP mula pa noong August of 1998.
Puntahan po natin yung tinuran ninyo, Mr. Speaker, Your Honor, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, na nag-uusap po yung dalawang panig. Ang katotohanan po nito, lahat po tayo ay nagbigay ng napakalaking pag-asa na sana ito ay simula na ng malawakan at pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa ating bansa. Lahat po ay umasa sapagkat sa pamagitan siguro ng isang seryoso na pag-uusap kagaya ng ginawa ng dalawang panig sa maraming pagkakataon, 3 po yatang beses, ay pinilit ng pamahalaan na talagang tingnan ang lahat ng mga posibilidad para magkaroon tayo ng kapayapaan. Ang tanong po, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, habang hinahanap po natin, habang ang pamahalaan ay nagsisikap na hanapin ang napakailap na solusyon ng pangkapayapaan, sapagkat hindi naman po natin masasabi na ito po ay masyadong madali. Komplikado na po ito. Malalim na po ang pinag-ugatan nito. Sino po ba, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, ang nanguna para yung unilateral ceasefire ay bawiin? Ang pamahalaan po ba o ang CPP, NPA, NDF?
Nito pong, kung ating pong matatandaan,
hindi po, sino po yung nauna na bumawi ng unilateral ceasefire?
yun po ang aking gusto nang puntuhin, Madam Speaker. Itong, kung matatandaan po natin, itong February 1, ay nag-anunsyo ang New People's Army na yung kanilang unilateral ceasefire ay babawiin nila effective February 10.
Yun nga po.
Sumunod noon, ay nag-announce din si Pangulong Duterte
Hindi
na...
po, ang aking tinatanong po, sino po ba ang unang nagdeklara na bawiin ang unilateral ceasefire?
Yun nga po ang aking kasagutan doon. Noong February 1 ay nag-announce na ang NPA na bawiin nila at meron silang mga sinabing kadahilanan. Pagkatapos nito, in response, binawi na rin ng gobyerno ang kanilang dineklarang unilateral ceasefire.
Hindi po ba katwiran lamang sapagkat habang nag-uusap ang dalawang panig, talaga pong seryoso. Ako po naniniwala bilang isa na seryoso ito. Kagaya po ng sinabi natin, bawat isang mamamayang Pilipino ay naghahangad at umaasa na sana ito na yung simula ng isang malawakan at pangmatagalang kapayapaan sa ating bansa na sa mahabang panahon ay pinaghati tayo ng sigalot na ito. Lahat po yung pag-asa na yon. Bakit hindi po nagtiyaga ang isang panig na teka muna, mag-uusap muna tayo. Bakit po kailangang ideklara kagad na ayaw na namin? Kapag ka ganun po ba, inaasahan po ba natin na maghahalokip-kip ng kamay lamang ang pamahalaan? Hindi po ba makatwiran din na kung ang nauna na ay yung isang panig, hindi po ba tama na gagawa rin naman ng aksyon ang pamahalaan, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Madam Speaker, kung matatandaan po natin...
Hindi po, ang tanong po, hindi ba pangkaraniwan lang na dapat nating asahan na gayong ang nagdeklara naman ay yung kabilang panig?
Kaya nga po...
Hindi ba inaasahan na gagawa din naman ng kaukulang aksyon yung pamahalaan?
Kaya nga po, Madam Speaker, ang naging response noon ay ang pag-withdraw rin ng pamahalaan. Ito ay mga unilateral ceasefires, no? At nitong mga nakaraang mga buwan, at kahit na noong nasa Roma, Italia, at mababasa ito sa joint statements na nilabas ng GRP at NDFP, nagpaabot ang NDFP ng kanilang reklamo sa mga tuloy-tuloy na troop deployments at paglabag ng sariling ceasefire ng GRP. Ang GRP rin ay may the same counter complaints, no? Kaya nga kung nahayaan sanang kahit na nag-withdraw ng kanilang mga unilateral ceasefires, kung napagbigyan ng pagkakataon na ngayong February 22 hanggang 27, yung ceasefires committee ng JRP at ng NDFP ay nakatakdang magkita sa Netherlands para pag-usapan ang posibilidad na magkaroon ng isang bilateral ceasefire agreement na kung saan ang mga modalities at protocols nito ay binding sa dalawang naglalaban ng grupo, ang GRP at NDFP.
Ganun pala, Madam Speaker. Your Honor. Ganun pala. Alam naman pala nung panig na yon na meron pa palang pag-uusap. Bakit naman hindi nagpasensya muna? Bakit hindi muna pinag-isipang mabuti? Siguro, makapupong ulit, sabi nga nila. Sapagkat ang hinahanap po natin ay pangkapayapaan na bawat mamamayang Pilipino ang makikinabang. Bakit hindi po dating pinagtiyagaan? Ilang pasensya po ba ang kakailanganin? Kung kinakailangang magbilang tayo ng 1 hanggang 1 milyon para pag-isipan ang isang pagdedesisyon na may kinalaman tayong lahat. Bakit po ganun?
Kung bakit po...
Meron palang pag-uusap. Bakit
Speaker,
naman biglaan na meron lang ayoko na. Hindi po ba mas maganda na siguro sinangguni muna? Mga kaibigan, ayaw na ba tayo? Di ba meron pa tayong pag-uusap na nakatalaga? Meron pa tayong isang pag-uusap. Baka naman, pwede na nating tingnan muna. Huwag muna tayo magdideclare kaagad. Hindi po ganun na nangyari. Ngayon po, ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas ay Commander-in-Chief ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Tama po ba yan, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po.
Ngayon po, kapag ka nagsalita po ang Commander-in-Chief at sinabi niya, nauna na sila eh. Wala na akong magagawa. O sige, maganda na rin tayo. Hindi po dapat asahan na yung sundalo, dahil sundalo po yan. Susunod po siya sa Commander-in-Chief. Tama po ba yan, Madam Speaker, Your Honor?
Tama po yan.
Ngayon, alam naman po natin yon Kailangan, di ba, dapat nag-ingat tayo. Dapat pinag-aralan nating mabuti. Kagaya po ng pinipilit ng tinatawang ito, Madam Speaker, Your Honor. Ang usaping pangkapayapaan, hindi lamang po sa kabilang panig. Hindi lamang sa panig ng pamahal, hindi panig ng CPP-NPA. Ito po isa panig ng pangkalahatang Pilipino. Wala pong isang grupo ang magtatakda kung anong mabuti sa ating bansa. Bakit po? Yung pangkaraniwang mamamayan, wala pa silang magandang kapalarang inaasahan sa kanila at sa kinabukasan ng kanilang mga anak. Ang ibig ko po sabihin, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, isang usapin ito na masyadong malalim, masyado na pinaghiwa-hiwalay na tayo ng maraming panahon. Gayong nagkausap na po para sa amin. Napakalaki pong pagkakataon ito. Sapagkat sa dalawang taong nagsusuntukan, hindi na po ako naniniwalang pwede pang Pwede po bang nag-uusap kayo at the same time nagsusuntukan kayo? Suntukan lamang po yun.
Madam Speaker.
Hindi po ba mas maganda na hanapin natin ang makabubuti sa ating bansa at kung ang maganda po ay mag-usap tayo, huwag tayong gagawa ng mabilis na pagpapasya sapagkat ito'y pagsisisihan nating lahat. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Tama po yan, Madam Speaker. Sa katunayan po, sabi ko nga kanina, kung mabibigyan ng... Ngayon po, nasa punto tayo na nanawagang bumalik sa usapang pangkapayapaan ang dalawang partido. Ang usapin naman po ng kung bakit, ano ang dahilan at nag-withdraw sila sa kanilang kanya-kanyang unilateral ceasefires ay naipahayag na ng NPA at napahayag na rin ni Pangulong Duterte. Ngayon po, nasa punto tayo na nananawagan tayo. Merong mga, kahit na si Pangulong Duterte, ang sinasabi niya, if there is a compelling reason na pwedeng bumalik sa usapang pangkapayapaan, ay babalik ang gobyerno. Nitong nakaraang araw, nag-anunsyo na rin ang Communist Party of the Philippines na sila ay bukas pa rin na magkaroon ng bilateral ceasefire agreement.
Salamat
ang mahalaga ngayon, Madam Speaker, sa
Madam
ating
Speaker,
pananaw,
Your Honor, ako po
pwede
ay isa sa
patapusin
pumirma
tayo
doon
ng
sa
ating-
resolusyon na gusto ko mag-usap muli ang bawat panig.
Maganda po yun.
Sapagkat ito po ay mabuti. Sapagkat ito ay maganda at ikabubuti nating lahat. Ngayon po, dahil isa po ako sa pumirma na nagnanais na magkaroon tayo ng kapayapaan sa ating bansa, pwede po bang magbigay ng suggestion lang kahit na po ito ay hindi naman sinosolicit ng bawat panig? Ganito po sana, Madam Speaker, Your Honor. Ang issue po ng pangkapayapaan, masalimuot po ito at malalim. Napakahirap po. Kailangan nating pag-ingatan. Pwede po ba na yung pong mga demands, wag muna yung masyadong malalaki na hindi natin kayang abutin. Kumbaga po sa isang tao na pumipitas ng prutas mula sa isang punong kahoy, pwede bang unahin muna natin yung mga mabababang mga bunga na po pwede nating kunin at kainin natin kapwa. Mula doon, papataas ng papataas. Hanggang sa makuha natin ang pinakahuling bunga, yung pinakamahirap na kunin. Pwede po ba yung ganon, Madam Speaker, Your Honor? Huwag na po yung masyadong mag-umpisa tayo sa mataas at matayog na bunga. At kakailanganin natin ng isang malakas at matatag na hagdanan para lamang kunin yung bunga na yun. Pwede naman tayong kumuha ng bunga yung nasa baba lamang. Madam Speaker, Your Honor, pwede po ba?
Sa palagay ko naman po ay talagang po pwede yan. At kung ako ay hayaan ng ating kaibigan na magpahayag, kung tingnan natin nga po ang nangyari nitong nakaraang 5 buwan, napakataas na ang iniusad ng usapang pangkapayapaan. Doon ho sa usapin ng ano ba ang dapat pag-usapan, sabi ko nga po, nasa substantive agenda na sila ng socio-economic reforms. Ang hindi ho nangyari sa nakaraang 15 taon ay nangyari ho nitong last 3 rounds of talks. Meron na po silang in principle pinagkasunduan, lalong-lalo na sa usapin ng socio-economic reforms. And ang hindi ho siguro alam ng karamihan, isa hong magandang nangyari sa usapang pangkapayapaan ngayon ay ang pag-accelerate ng agenda ng usapang pangkapayapaan. Habang nag-uusap ho ang dalawang panels sa regular agenda na socio-economic reforms, ay nag-uusap na rin ang kanilang kanya-kanyang reciprocal working groups para pag-usapan ang political and constitutional reforms na kabahagi ng agenda na itinakda nila noon pang 1992. At doon naman po sa usapang ceasefire, no? Totoo po na mas mainam na atmosphere na magkaroon ng ceasefire habang nag-uusap. Pero kung tatandaan po natin, nitong mga nakaraang dekada rin, noong panahon ng 1992-1998, wala hong ceasefire na nangyari. Pero ito yung period sa panahon ni Presidente Fidel Ramos, no? Ito yung period na maraming dokumento at kasunduan ang nalagdaan kahit na walang formal ceasefire. Kabilang na rito ang Hague Joint Declaration na nagtakda ng agenda ng usapang pangkapayapaan, ang 1995 Joint Agreement on Safety and Immunity Guarantees, at ang unang major agreement na nasa substantive agenda na nakumpleto noong March of 1998, ang Comprehensive Agreement for the Respect of Human Rights and International Humanitarian Law. Ang ibig po natin puntuhin dito, Madam Speaker, kung mabibigyan ng pagkakataon na bumalik uli ang both panels sa negotiating table, tayo po ay maniniwala, kasama ang ating kaibigan rito na nanawagan ng just and lasting peace, na aabante pa ang usapang pangkapayapaan sa pamamagitan ng dalawang nagtutunggali ang pwersa ng GRP at NDFP.
Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker, sa panahong ibinigay niyo sa akin, at maraming salamat sa kinatawan ng bayan muna. Inaasahan po ng ating mga kababayan na sana po ay makamit na natin ang kapayapaan, pagtiyagaan po ng dalawang panig. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat din po. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I move to refer the speech of Honorable Isagani Sarate to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
There being no objections.
And its interpellation.
There being no objections, motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Ron Salo of Party List Kabayan to avail of his privilege hour.
The Honorable Ron Salo of Party List Kabayan is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my esteemed colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to all of you. Today I rise on a matter of personal privilege. I rise for and on behalf of our fellow Filipinos in Sabah, whose situation is a cause of grave concern. For the past years, we have heard alarming reports of the abuse and human rights violations being suffered by Filipino migrants in Sabah, both documented and undocumented. As of today, there are thousands languishing in overcrowded jails and deportation facilities under subhuman conditions and exposed to threats of abuse and police brutality. Madam Speaker, the situation of these Filipino migrants in Sabah is a long-standing humanitarian crisis of enormous proportions. Although there is difficulty in accurately assessing the number of Filipinos in Sabah, government estimates of Filipinos in Sabah were pegged at 800,000, while NGO estimates were pegged at 1.4 million based on 2013 reports. We are aware and we are happy to note that late last year, President Rodrigo Duterte and Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak agreed on the gradual repatriation of undocumented Filipinos in Sabah, and that the President has assured that while the gradual repatriation is proceeding, he intends to provide assistance in the form of hospitals and schools. Just this January, Department of Social Welfare and Development Secretary Judith Tagiwalo declared that more than 7,000 Filipinos in Sabah who have been arrested by Malaysian authorities for their undocumented migrant status will be deported beginning February. Our government will respond to this, says Secretary Tagiwalo, stressing that deportees will be provided with assistance to make sure their immediate economic needs are met. These recent efforts of the government are encouraging and will offer much-needed relief and support to many of the thousands of Filipinos detained in jails and deportation facilities in Sabah. However, there is still an urgent need for a coherent policy and definitive action from the concerned government agencies to halt the continuing abuses against Filipino migrants. While repatriation is ongoing, there is a need to fully investigate and squarely address the issues of abuses and human rights violations, and come up with policies and programs including addressing the issue directly with Malaysia and perhaps coming up with bilateral agreements that will tackle the situation once and for all. Madam Speaker, we have witnessed how in recent years the Malaysian government has instituted crackdowns on illegal immigrants, which were reportedly accompanied by police brutality and severe human rights violations. In 2001, the Malaysian government's deportation process on illegal immigrants in Sabah was reportedly accompanied by human rights violations. In 2002, a crackdown against immigrants caused physical, emotional, and psychological suffering to Filipinos who were apprehended. This was described by then Gabriela Representative Luz Biminda Ilagan in a speech to the International Assembly of Migrants and Refugees in 2008 as follows. Tens of thousands of Filipinos, half of them women and children, were caught and cramped in appalling detention cells. They were detained for weeks before they were deported back to their countries of origin. Sabah newspapers confirmed the Malaysian authorities' cruelties, beatings and manhandling of men, children, and even pregnant women. Dozens of women had been raped by police or jail guards, one of them a 13-year-old girl. Just like in the previous crackdowns, countless people, especially children, fell physically, emotionally, and psychologically ill. And at least 12 babies and children died while in detention due to dehydration, starvation, and disease. In February 2013, the Royal Security Forces of the Sultanate of Sulu and North Borneo, claiming to be under the leadership of Jamalul Kiram III, an heir and a claimant to the Sultanate of Sulu, arrived in Sabah to assert the Philippines' territorial claim. This sparked a military standoff from the Malaysian forces, which resulted in the death of 50 Filipinos and 8 Malaysian policemen, and the evacuation of over 6,000 Filipinos from Sabah. As a result, undocumented Filipino migrants were reportedly subjected to physical abuse and harassment by the Malaysian police force. According to reports, the Malaysian forces were non-discriminating whether the migrants carried a red identity or permanent residence card, or social work and resettlement pass. They heedlessly beat and shot individuals who were suspected of being a Tusug or Suluk, and supporters of the Royal Army were branded as terrorists. Again, in January 2014, reports of abuses against Filipinos in Sabah again circulated, prompting Malacanang to summon Philippine Ambassador to Malaysia Eduardo Malaya to probe the incidents. Reports included alleged roundup of documented and undocumented OFWs who were thrown into overcrowded processing centers and jails and forced to admit they were illegal workers. Some of the female migrant workers were also reportedly sexually abused. Florito Rosales, an architect and a project manager of Malaysian's construction company in Kota Kinabalu, posted in his Facebook account his experiences while he and his fellow Filipinos were jailed. They were physically and emotionally abused, made to sleep on the floor of an overcrowded and infested hall, and treated as criminals even if he was fully documented with a working visa. He stressed that Malaysian authorities were obviously targeting Filipinos. He also complained of the alleged inaction of the Philippine Embassy in Malaysia over the mistreatment of the Filipinos. Madam Speaker, colleagues, guests, we know that previous administrations have exerted various efforts to address the situation. However, fact-finding missions revealed that these actions failed to provide adequate and coordinated assistance for the migrant workers. Overall, it has been observed that abuses suffered by Filipinos in Sabah were seldom given national attention, and that efforts that have been implemented so far offered only temporary solutions, such as providing assistance to deportees, and not permanent solutions to the persisting issue of the Filipino migrants in Sabah. Limited or insufficient state intervention aggravates abuses that Filipino migrants suffer. Our countrymen do not deserve this maltreatment. By virtue of being a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Protection of All Rights of Migrant Workers and their families, our state is duty-bound to ensure that every Filipino who wishes to work or is currently working overseas is protected from all forms of human rights violations, regardless of whether or not his or her country of destination and work is a signatory to the same international treaty that binds us. And all the more should we be on the lookout or on a more heightened alert for such violations in countries such as Malaysia that are non-parties to the aforementioned Human Rights Convention. Madam Speaker and colleagues in this chamber, there is an urgent need to investigate the current situation of our countrymen in Sabah. The government needs to come up with solutions that treat the security and welfare of the Filipinos as a priority. While there is an existing territorial issue between the Philippines and Malaysia, the protection of the interests of Filipinos should be given a paramount consideration, even separate from other issues involving other aspects of the Philippine relations with Malaysia. In this connection, I am filing a resolution seeking to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to come up with a coherent policy and legal framework in addressing the situation of Filipino migrants in Sabah. This will include defining a much clearer and effective government policy in Filipino migration to Sabah that will render safer the living and working conditions of all Filipino migrants in that area, an assessment of the effectiveness of our legal protection mechanism for our migrants in distress, and a veritable review of foreign policy relations with Malaysia insofar as the Sabah issue is concerned. I then appeal to this august hall for its collective wisdom and support in adopting this resolution. As champions of the rights and welfare of our people, let us work together to find lasting and sustainable solutions to finally end the suffering of our people in Sabah and their families back home. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
Majority Floor Leader.
I move to recognize the gentleman from OFW for his interpellation.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Will the distinguished gentleman yield to some questions, Madam Speaker?
Gladly.
Madam Speaker, first, I really appreciate the Honorable Representative of Kabayan for bringing up these situations of our Filipinos in Sabah. May I ask, Madam Speaker, how many total that will be Filipinos will be deported by the Malaysian government?
Madam Speaker, according to Secretary Taguiwalo, in his statement in January, that there are more than 7,000 Filipinos in Sabah will be deported beginning this February.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Meron na po bang ginagawa ang Office of the Undersecretary for Migrant Workers Affairs pagdating dito sa problema natin sa mga Pilipinong upauwin galing ng Sabah?
Madam Speaker, in that particular regard, I am not really aware. That's the reason why I am filing this particular resolution to investigate the extent of the efforts being undertaken by the Philippine government.
Okay. How about the National Commissions of Muslim Filipinos or the ARMM? Are they doing some preparations in coordination with DSWD in regards to these 7,000 Filipinos that will be deported from Malaysia?
Madam Speaker, still on that matter, I have no personal knowledge of.
So, ibig sabihin po ba, Madam Speaker, na ang mga departamento na dapat nangangalaga sa ating mga Pilipino sa ibang bansa ay walang ginagawa at mga inutil pagdating dito sa mga problemang kakaharapin ng mahigit sa 7,000 Pilipino na galing na Malaysia?
In that regard, perhaps the reason why we're calling for this particular investigation in aid of legislation for us to be properly briefed and apprised of what are the efforts being undertaken by the Philippine government, particularly the agencies in charge of the protection of our Filipino migrants.
Madam Speaker, may we humbly ask the Honorable Representative Ronsalo kung kailan pa po ba natin nalaman or do we have any reports coming from Malaysian government or embassy that they are going to deport 7,000 plus overseas Filipinos from Sabah?
I have no personal knowledge of that as well, except what was in the news last January that Secretary Taguiwalo declared that more than 7,000 Filipinos in Sabah who have been arrested by Malaysian authorities for their undocumented migrant status will be deported beginning February. Nonetheless, we respectfully note, Your Honor, that since 2001, this particular issue on migrants in distress in Sabah have been reported in the news and have reached officially the offices of the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Salo. The same thing that what we are having a problem with Jakatia Pawa, who was executed at wala man lang pong kaalam-alam ang ating Department of Foreign Affairs, lalong-lalo na yung Office of the Migrant Workers Affairs, regarding dito sa mga ganitong kalungkot-lungkot na nangyayari sa ating mga overseas Filipinos. Ganun na rin po, kung supposedly if the Malaysian government, and it came out in the news that we have these 7,000 Filipinos that will be deported, dapat po ang unang gumagawa ng aksyon ay hindi ang DSWD kung hindi ang DFA. Is there any recommendations that or actions that you would like to pursue on Madam Speaker in regards to the incompetence of our government representative, especially in the Overseas Migrant Workers Affair under the Department of Foreign Affairs, Madam Speaker?
Madam Speaker, this is precisely for calling for this particular investigation, and we trust that the House leadership will immediately act on our request in order for us to be able to immediately hear from the Department of Foreign Affairs as well as the other agencies involved in the affairs of our migrant workers, for us to be able to be apprised and briefed of the concrete plans they are doing, as well as to come up with a national policy on how to address this lingering issue of Filipino migrants workers in Sabah, which, as reported, ranges between 800,000 to 1.2 million Filipinos.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is not only the 7,000 plus Filipinos from Sabah. We might as well look into the 300,000 that will be deported coming from the United States as the pronouncement of the newly elected President Trump, as well as the 15,000 stranded workers from Saudi Arabia, which until now, our DFA, especially the Office of the Migrant Workers Affairs, are not doing anything what they have promised. During last June, when we visited Saudi Arabia, karamihan po sa kanila na napauwi na mahigit sa 6,000 ay nagbabalikan na ulit sa Saudi Arabia dahil nga hindi makamtan ang mga pinangako ng ating Department of Foreign Affairs na maibalik ang kanilang mga end-of-service benefit as well as their unpaid salaries. Thank you so much, and I really commend and thank Honorable Ron Salo for bringing up these issues. We might as well bring the issue of the 15,000 stranded workers from Saudi Arabia, as well as what are the preparations of DFA, DOLE, and DSWD regarding the 300,000 plus that will be deported from the United States of America. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much as well, Congressman John Bertis, for your support to our Filipino migrants.
Madam Speaker,
Majority Floor Leader.
I would like to recognize the next interpellator, the gentleman from the 1st District of Zamboanga, Representative Celso Lobregat.
The Honorable Celso Lobregat is hereby recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, may I know if the Honorable Salo will be willing to answer a few questions from this representation?
Gladly, Your Honor.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I am interpolating because almost all of the undocumented Filipinos from Sabah end up in Zamboanga City. Even when I was mayor, many times, practically there were deportations almost every week. The only difference was the number. If there was a crackdown by the Malaysian authorities, then the deportees would be run into the hundreds and even thousands. But on a weekly basis, there were about 40, 20, 30. And I would like to thank the Honorable Salo for bringing this up because more or less the conditions in the detention cells in Malaysia, in Sabah, are really, were really deplorable to the point that since we have we cannot put a consulate in Sabah because we have a claim. We even sent our city health officer to Sabah to look at the detention cells. As of now, what is this number of undocumented Filipinos that you would estimate in Sabah?
According to government estimates, Your Honor, there are government estimates of Filipinos in Sabah, both documented and undocumented, were pegged at 800,000. However, NGO estimates it at 1.4 million based on 2013 reports. And you are right, Madam Speaker, that the conditions of Filipinos that are placed in jails are really deplorable. They are placed in subhuman conditions. And these are fellow Filipinos.
Yes, but in reality, there is need in Sabah for a large labor force. It is just when more or less the Malaysians or the Malaysians start complaining about the employment that the Malaysian government has a crackdown. Now, the government has even tried to establish a one-stop shop in Zamboanga to help the documentation of the Filipinos wanting to work in Sabah. But unfortunately, still, most of the undocumented Filipinos, even though they have been deported, try to go back and use the back door. The interagency, you have DSWD, you have DOLE, you have all OWA, all of them try to put their resources together to facilitate, but still, most of the undocumented Filipinos end up, again, undocumented Filipinos going to the back door. Do you have any recommendation or suggestion to this?
Madam Speaker, this is precisely why we're calling for this particular investigation for us to be able to craft a national policy on how we're going to address this humanitarian crisis, quote unquote, that are plaguing our Filipinos in Sabah. Indeed, it's a multifaceted. It is not just one dimension where we can look at this particular problem besetting our people. Of course, there are security issues, there are territorial issues, claims, there are poverty, a lot of issues come into play. And this is where collective wisdom of this August Chamber is needed in order for us to be able to craft that sustainable and lasting national policy.
Yes, in fact, many of the children of these undocumented Filipinos have been born in Sabah, and they do not speak Tagalog, or they do not speak Tausug. In fact, they speak the Malaysian dialect. So when they are deported back to the Philippines, including their children, then there is also a problem of education because they cannot even speak any of the languages or dialects of the Philippines. I hope you take that into account.
Yes, Madam Speaker, we respectfully note that particular concern, and indeed, there are also issues on perhaps statelessness of some of these people, while of course, by blood, they are Filipinos.
Yes, so anyway, I just wanted to bring to your attention the other problems that are being encountered, especially when these Filipinos, undocumented Filipinos, arrive in Zamboanga. Then we also have a problem because many of them, only about 10% maybe of the undocumented Filipinos actually come from Zamboanga City. Most of them come from Tawi-Tawi and Sulu. And we have also requested that as soon as they arrive, they are processed and they be brought back to their places of origin or else we will also have a bigger social problem in the city of Zamboanga. So again, thank you very much, Congressman Salo, for bringing this up.
Thank you very much as well, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much for that support, and we hope that when we discuss this particular measure or request for investigation, you will also be there for us to craft that particular policy.
Madam Speaker,
Please proceed, Majority Floor Leader.
I move that we refer the speech and the interpellation of the gentleman Ron Salo to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action. So move, Madam Speaker.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is granted.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize Representative Alfred Vargas III in the 4th District of Quezon City to avail his privilege hour. So move, Madam Speaker.
Representative Vargas is hereby recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, today is a sad day for me and for the friends and families of the victims of an accident that happened this morning. An accident that claimed the lives of 15 people, mostly young students who were just in the early stages of their college life. The accident that happened in Tanay, Rizal early this morning involved a tourist bus owned by Panda Coach Bus Tours, which was carrying some 50 students on their way to a camping trip in Tanay, Rizal. According to the initial investigation, the bus lost control and rammed into an electric post, immediately killing 10 passengers. The rest died in the hospital, the others injured. One of the victims, a student who was interviewed on the spot of the accident, said that he didn't think the bus was running too fast, but that before the accident, he remembered smelling a burning tire before the bus lost control. He said he remembered praying for safety before the bus finally hit the electric post. It was heartbreaking, Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, to hear him call his parents, saying he was safe, and for them not to worry because he was lucky to be alive. Unfortunately, the others who a few minutes before were excitedly enjoying the trip with him are now dead. Lives taken too soon. Young adults who were eager to explore and excited for the adventure that awaited them, but who now lie dead, leaving behind shocked and devastating parents, distraught friends and family members, and a shattered community full of questions. I too have questions, Madam Speaker. Many of the victims were my constituents, as their school is in my district in Novaliches, Quezon City. And I vow to get answers and make sure that the people responsible for this will be held accountable to it. The student who was interviewed said the trip was a school requirement, but they had no teachers who accompanied them. The radio report this morning relayed that only the school staff was with the students. The representative of the bus company immediately told the media that the bus line has a legitimate franchise, as if saying they had done nothing wrong or illegal. But what about the burning tire that one of the survivors smelled right before the bus hit the post? Let me say with strong emphasis that the responsibility of the bus company for the safety of its passengers does not end in getting a franchise. It is not enough that the bus was operating legally. Being a public utility vehicle, there is so much more responsibility involved. Is the bus fit to run the roads? Much more carry students and ensure their safety when under their care? How often does this bus company check the suitability of their vehicles? When was the last time that this particular bus was checked? A simple maintenance check before a trip would have spelled a huge difference in safety. We've heard this alibi many times before, Madam Speaker, that the brakes malfunctioned and the driver lost control of the wheels, as if this is reason enough to absolve the driver and operator of the bus of the crime. Today, I wrote a letter to the administration of Best Link Colleges of the Philippines in Novaliches to ask for a report about the students' alleged excursion. If it was approved by the school, and what the purpose of the camping trip was, considering their destination was a resort. We also need to know if the parents were aware of the trip and if they gave their full consent. No one deserves to be harmed because of the irresponsibility of others, Madam Speaker. I cannot emphasize enough that public utility vehicle plying our roads and ferrying passengers has an enormous responsibility, not only to its passengers but also to all those who are on the road. These PUV owners signed a contract with the government, with the people, when they applied for their franchise and were granted one. Today, we mourn the dead, but we cannot allow these young adults to die in vain. Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, I deeply feel for the parents of these students. It is not natural nor normal for parents to bury their own children. Even more so when their deceased children were supposed to be in the protection of the school and their teachers. So many times we say that accidents like this must not happen again. Once and for all, can we discern what we can do to ensure that casualties like this are prevented? For one, we need to bring the guilty in to pay for the crime of reckless imprudence and fast. We bring the guilty to pay for the damages, to take care of all the expenses of the accident, including comprehensive investigation costs. And we want to see the action and results immediately. Perhaps it's about time that we visit the franchise of bus lines that have been involved in accidents to check their track records and ensure their licenses are up to date and are in order. I call on the government agencies involved, Madam Speaker, the DOTR, the DepEd, perhaps even the DOJ and the NBI. This is a national concern of paramount importance because young lives have been sacrificed again today. We need to guarantee that after today, the malfunctioning brakes are no longer given as reasons that trigger the death of passengers. When students are harmed while in a school activity, we should not need to ask if the school or the parents are aware or if they were involved in the planning of the said activities, because they should. Madam Speaker, my dear colleagues, I am committed to follow up on the development of this case, and I will report to you again, hopefully a week from now, on how this case will develop. And hopefully, we shall be able to determine that indeed, we have enough laws to cover the rights of the victims of this crime and to ensure this kind of accident does not happen again. We have to make sure as Congress of the people that we will do everything that we can to ensure that justice is given swift and fair. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
Majority Floor Leader.
I move to recognize the gentleman from the 2nd District of Quezon City, Honorable Winston Castello, for his interpellation.
The Honorable Costello is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Would the gentleman from Novaliches will yield to some clarificatory questions, Madam Speaker?
Gladly, Madam Speaker.
Yes, first off, Madam Speaker, this representation, we'd like to congratulate the representative from the 5th District of Quezon City for taking up the cudgels to the families of those who perish unnecessarily this morning. I think as of this count, we have already lost 14 lives that were snapped away needlessly. So I would just want to ask the good privileged speaker on what legislative measures has he thought of so that the occurrence of this very tragic event will not be repeated.
Madam Speaker, this representation is thinking of reviewing the franchise records of bus companies with records of different accidents. And we're also looking into DepEd policies when it comes, or DepEd and our CHED policies when it comes to outings, Madam Speaker.
That, Madam Speaker, is very commendable, considering there are at least two issues that raise up here. First is the roadworthiness of the public utility vehicles that were used, because as of now, there are a lot of vehicles that would really that would necessitate maintenance. And I think one of the reasons why the reason for that accident is that it has not passed to some scrutiny of the LTFRB. So with the leadership here of the gentleman from the Waliches, I am sure that errors such as this would be rectified so that we will be preventing such occurrence. And second, that he has pointed out is also true. Because in my district alone, there are a lot of private schools, and they are in the propensity of conducting a lot of excursion, field trips, tours, all in the guise of lakbay aral. And Madam Speaker, not only that, there are some serious allegations that they charge exorbitant fees, no? That is totally not related on their courses. Like they go to the mountains, they go to provinces. However, this has no relevance with the courses that they are now taking. In other words, they make a lot of killing on it. So I think it is high time that we pursue the direction of the privileged speaker, Congressman Alfred Vargas, to stop on these proliferations of activities wherein they victimize a lot of people, hapless students, whose parents are working very hard so that they would meet, they would be able to pursue the education of their children, even to the point of risking the lives of these people. So again, Madam Speaker, I would like to commend the representative from the Waliches for taking up the cudgels on a lot of victims. And with his privileged speech, I hope this would put an end to this tragic event. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This representation is counting on the chairman of the Metro Manila Development Committee in helping us craft legislation for this.
Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize Honorable Matawil for his interpellation.
Honorable Matawin is recognized. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask the gentleman from Quezon City if he's willing to accept a few clarification.
Gladly, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, this is really very tragic and very sad. And I am very much interested in the outcome of the investigation. As you know, sometime last May 5, 2011, I was also a victim of a traffic accident which almost cost my life and my daughter. May 5, 2011, when we had a head-on collision with a bus. And that incident never got out of my mind. And every time I hear of major traffic accidents like this, I make it a point to find out what might have happened, what could be the cause of all this. And may I ask the gentleman from Quezon City if he sought an inquiry or a report from the investigating officer from the PNP or the LTO?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I would be willing to do that, to give you a copy of the report.
Yes, Madam Speaker, that is very important because that can be a basis for our further action in ensuring that this kind of incident will be minimized in the future. And it's really sad that we lost 14 lives of young children who have a bright future. And may I also ask the gentleman from Quezon City if is willing to invite the school authorities and the bus company concerned for a congressional inquiry on the matter by the appropriate committee?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Actually, the resolution, this representation is filing a resolution of that kind later. If not later, tomorrow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I ask finally the gentleman from Quezon City to relay the condolences of our colleagues in the 17th Congress. We are indeed very sorry to hear this very sad incident. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Much appreciated, Madam Speaker. This representation would like to thank the gentleman from the 2nd District of Pangasinan, and your deep condolences will be delivered to the grieving families of the victims. Actually, Madam Speaker, this representation is going to meet with the families tomorrow, and we'll see where we're gonna go from here. And rest assured that I will be updating this August body about developments. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Chair likewise expresses her sympathies for the family and loved ones of the students involved in the vehicular accident. Majority Floor Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the speech and the interpellation of Honorable Alfred Vargas to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Any objections? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, having no other wishes to avail of the privilege hour, I move to terminate the privilege hour.
There being no objections, motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, I move that we adjourn session until tomorrow, February 21, Tuesday, 4 p.m. in the afternoon. So moved, Madam Speaker.
The session is adjourned until 4 o'clock in the afternoon of February 21, 2017.